All right, pen pals. It's officially October, and we are on episode 8 of Reasonable Doubt. And tonight's guest, I think we're going to have a lot of fun with. Now, y'all already know how Instagram likes to act. Last week, Tiffany Yvonne Cox got in here on the first try, y'all. The very first try. So what I'm hoping is that we can get tonight's guests also on the first try. Okay? So if you are here, guest, I am purposefully not saying their name. Now, if you've been paying attention, then you already know who the person is because you saw them on the flyer and you saw them in my stories. But if you haven't paid attention, then I want you to just be surprised. Okay? So if you are here, go ahead and click to be added to my live. And then I will let you in. And we hope, y'all. Last time I sang a song, I don't remember what I sang though. Maybe that was the thing. Oh,
did we do
what?
it?
What?
Am I part of the first time
You
club? Getting it in the first time?
Yes.
Amazing.
Yes. Maybe, you know what? I'm not going to give you all the credit. Maybe Instagram got itself together.
I think, you know what? I think you raised enough noise that they were like, listen, she is not playing. We need to.
Because it happened like 6 weeks in a row. And then
I
suddenly
saw.
on week 7, it was like, boom, we're in.
Yeah. No, I've been keeping up with the interviews. They've been great, first of all. I love the series. It's fantastic.
Thank you. So, ladies and gentlemen, your eyes are not deceiving you. I know that it's October, but this is JT in the flesh. This is not a ghost. This is not a zombie. We have Christopher Mychael Watson joining us tonight, who plays JT on Reasonable Doubt. A very pivotal role, especially in this season. Now, I usually start off asking about, your background, how you got here, all these other things. I'm going to start in a different place today because it's October.
Oh, no.
This is the official weekend in October. Do you watch scary movies? Do you like scary movies?
I do. I've seen plenty of my share in my days.
So then can you give us, a favorite, like one that you're like, every year I got to watch this, or maybe it's not every year, but one that like really impacted you and like why?
I can say maybe I'll take maybe 2. So I'm gonna do just childhood favorite, Hocus Pocus. It's just a classic. I mean, it's just one of those feel good, like you can cozy up and watch it. It just reminds me of childhood. And a scary film that I watched when I was older that I feel like had an impact on me was Hereditary.
Oh,
wow. Have you seen that?
I don't think I saw that, but I might watch it now. Tell me about
that director in particular. I don't remember his name right now, but he did Midsommar, Hereditary, and he just has this way of creating tension and creating just an unsettling feeling in your stomach and watching things of just like something's not right here. And I don't know if I'm here for this ride. Actually, let me get off if I can.
I know that's right. I just did a live. I did a live on Thursday with a friend named Tiffany, and we were talking about Black folks, religion, and horror.
Sure, yeah.
You know what I mean? Like it's a strange dichotomy, amongst African American people or people, melanated people. And so I grew up, I was allowed to watch scary movies. I was allowed to participate in Halloween, though I didn't really participate. I think I might have gone trick-or-treating once, and it was when I was a teenager and we were just walking around because, we wanted to be outside at night. I didn't dress up. I feel like I've dressed up for Halloween 3 times in my life. One was an accident, and I won the contest.
How is it? Okay, I was going to say, how do you accidentally dress up for Halloween?
Because we woke up this was elementary school. We woke up that morning realizing, oh, it's Halloween. We're supposed to dress up.
Sure.
And we didn't have anything. And of course, you can't go tell a Black parent the morning of that you need
the project's due, Mom. Right.
So we had like a little what is that? I'm looking at it. It's a wig head, that styrofoam wig
Oh,
head. And
sure, sure. Yeah, yeah.
we were trying to put like blood on it. So we used nail polish, but it ended up
Okay.
eating through its face because of the
Even better.
styrofoam. But of course, we're not thinking that. We're thinking, oh, we messed it up,
Sure,
right?
sure.
So I don't know what we put on, a sheet, I don't know. And I just walked around with the head. And so it looked like I had like a double head, but my second head was dead. So I won.
That's so good. That's so good. That's brilliant. That's brilliant. You know what? Just going with the flow,
Just,
improving, staying in the scene, you
yes,
know?
absolutely. Absolutely. Then
That's
the
great.
second time I dressed up was actually in LA in my 20s. And I went like as a flash
Oh,
dance.
okay. Nice.
Yeah. And then the third time was just last year. And I went as like a unicorn fairy thing.
Now, what was the what brought that about? Why the
I'll be honest.
unicorn?
I know my friend is now watching. My friend is really into dressing up. So
Okay.
that's the reason I dressed up. And so we're like, okay, we're both going to go. We should get like a matching costume, something. And everything that we were looking for, we couldn't find. So we just threw some things together. We just said, okay, here's a tutu, here's some
Oh,
ears,
okay.
here's a horn.
You know what? The same for, like you said, I've maybe gone trick or treating 3 times in my life. Like the
Mm-hmm.
first few, like as a child, I think my mother took me like, I didn't grow up. I didn't grow up in the best area, so she had to like take me to another neighborhood, like another
Yeah.
friend of mine's neighborhood, and so I trick or treated with them, and I was like, oh, this is cool, but like I didn't do it again until like you said college, and I think it was like my freshman year, and I had nothing, and so I was like, I looked around my dorm room. I like rolled up a piece of paper and put on some khakis and was like, okay, I'm a construction worker. I'm an architect. Like the most boring, but just blue collar jobs usually basically
Absolutely.
were just mine. Yeah, yeah.
Absolutely. I also wasn't allowed to eat candy as a child. So there was no
Oh,
reason for us to walk
oh.
around and grab it. Like, what am I going to do? When I get home, I'm just going to throw it away.
Now
So
that I was just talking. So how was that when you grew up? Do you what is your relationship with candy now?
I don't eat it. I don't like it. So
Interesting,
it helped
interesting.
me. So my mother was just very big on teeth. And,
Okay.
growing up, she was born in the 40s. So having access to a dentist, knowing about dental health was just, and they were in the country in the middle of nowhere in Louisiana, right? So for
Nice.
her,
Okay.
it was
Okay.
like she grew up and she learned information and she was like, my kids will not be able to eat candy because she was just giving it like it was food. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, you want to eat it, you can eat it. And so for us, it was like, no. So with that being said, there would be occasions where she would say, okay, you can have some. Like we would have like Friday sales after school in elementary school where
Okay.
the PTA would come and they would like set up to like raise money, right? And so the only candy that I really love, like to this day really love, is called Sour Powers.
Mm.
And it had like a red cat on the front with ears. And if
Interesting.
you went into the corner store, it was in like this clear box at the front, and you had to pick them out like strings
Oh, okay.
and put
Okay.
them in your own plastic bag. So she would let me get those every now and again. But I don't know if it's nature versus nurture. I don't know if I never got into candy because I wasn't allowed
Mm.
or if I just wouldn't have liked it anyway. Now, being a woman, as I'm getting older, I have a sweet tooth, but nothing satisfies it because I don't actually like sweets. You know what I mean?
Interesting.
Like I don't like a whole
Yeah.
bunch of cookies and cakes and candies, and I don't even really like chocolate. So it's really hard to kind
Wow.
of figure out like, and
I
my sister's the
think
same
some of that
way.
I think some of that has to be nurture because I was when I talk to my friends who kind of grew up that way, and
Mhm.
my sister now, I have 2 young nieces, and she's kind of raising them in that way. And at certain points, I'm like, they should know what an Oreo tastes like. But then again, I'm like, you know what? They're going to be really
Yeah.
healthy. So let
They're
me
not
just
going to
let
know
you
what
rock
they're
out.
missing. Like,
Yeah.
that's the thing. I never threw a tantrum about it. If I went to other people's house and they were offering me candy, I said no. I just never craved it
Wow.
because I didn't taste it in the first. I didn't know what I was
Yeah.
missing. So I wasn't, it's not like she gave it to me and then took it away. You
Your
know what I'm
your
saying? It
parents
was
did
like,
right by you. They
yeah,
did
it was
right
like,
by you.
no.
Yeah.
Same thing with like soda. We would have those on every random occasion. Therefore, I was never a kid who said, yeah, let me get a soda. It was like, no, you drink water,
Wow.
lemonade, or tea. Like we didn't even have like we would have Kool-Aid every now and again, you know what I mean? But anything that was very sugary, no. Also,
That's
I
so
had way too
interesting.
much energy anyway, so my mother didn't want me bouncing off the
Right. She was like, this is the real reason. No, yeah, yeah,
yeah, this is the real reason we need to sit you down. But I appreciate it because I have good habits because of it. Like
yeah. It
I
really
don't have
does
to
make a
break
difference.
Yeah, I don't have to break any of those habits. Now, if I see some sour powers, I'm eating them.
Yeah. It's okay to have a vice.
Yeah, but they kind of like, I don't want to say discontinued it, but once they started doing like sour punch and like an airhead roll.
Okay. Yeah.
So they started, biting off of the sour powers, right?
Sure. The originals. They never get their due.
Yeah. So sour powers became hard to find. Like you have to go to like warehouses or like maybe they be in a random Dollar General. Right. Now you can only find them on Amazon. So I purposefully don't go looking for them on Amazon.
Okay. Gotcha.
So, all right, we took a real long detour, y'all.
Right. I have more questions, but later on, we'll do that later.
We'll talk about that later. But what we're here to talk about is how you decided to get into the craziest, most inconsistent industry in the world. Like, what made you make that decision? How did we get here?
Yes. Well, I kind of grew up in the arts. My parents put me into a performing arts elementary school, magnet elementary school, and so I was kind of introduced to theater and music and visual arts very early. And I remember to this day my first time on stage, my first time in front of people. I had to play the troll under the bridge in the Three Little Billy Goats tale. And I remember this was like kindergarten, and I'm terrified backstage, and I have this like red wig on, and like I know my part, and I'm like, it's real quick. I just have to prance out there, do my thing, and then get off. And so I get out there and I do it, and the crowd just goes crazy, and I'm like, oh no, this is it, man. This is what I want to do. And I start like hamming it up, and like the teacher's like, okay, Chris, come on now, come. Like I didn't want to get off. And so when I got off that stage, even in kindergarten, I was like, this is it. Like I had never felt like a rush like that. A connection, just it was one of those things where I was like, this is what I want to do for the rest of my life. And I really stuck to that, as crazy as that sounds. So yeah, I went to elementary magnet school. I went to a magnet high school. And then I got my BFA in acting at Florida State University.
Stop. We're going to stop. Okay. Stop right there. There. First of all, where are you from?
See, I was going to talk about that too. I'm from Georgia. I'm from Atlanta.
Okay. When were you at Florida State?
I graduated high school in 2006. So I got to Florida State fall of 2006.
We were there at the same time.
Stop it. You went to state?
For grad school. I was in the film school for graduate school.
Stop it. I worked with
and I was there from 2006 to 2008.
Wait a minute. Okay. Oh, so wait. I don't know if you would have known some of these. Did you know Jared Wilson?
You know what? Probably by face. At this point, do I remember people's names and stuff? No.
Sure.
But Andrew Batchelor used to be in my plays, and Sheila. Sheila and Andrew used to be in my plays, because
so
when we would have our auditions, no Black students would ever come to the auditions. So I had to go. What was the name of that acting troupe?
I know exactly what you're talking about. Was it the Black Actors Guild? Was it that?
Maybe BAG.
I'm pretty sure it was that.
Might be it. Yeah. So I had to go to them and do my own audition. So that's how I found Sheila and Andrew. Yeah. And so Sheila then even did a movie, one of our films that we did, because after she had done my play. So I was in the film school, but I was in the writing program through the film school. So we were in the film school, the theater department, and the creative writing department.
Right.
So I had to put up plays. So that's why I keep mentioning those, for those people who are like, wait, were you in the film school or what were you doing? It was a like threefold kind of thing. But I used to be a Wednesday.
That's so crazy. Yeah. See, that's the thing, because I was in the BFA program. Like my time was so locked up, I couldn't do anything extracurricular. And so once, when I was in a show, and I was a Q. I'm an Omega. So
there's no reason I shouldn't know you.
I was about to say, I don't know how I never saw you.
What year did you pledge?
I'm 08.
Spring or fall?
Spring. So do you know Akeem?
Yes.
Or
that's your line brother?
We was just in Seattle hanging out. Yes, that's my ace.
Oh, I was at your probate. Akeem said something about the sun coming out, and the sun came out.
That's Caleb. Yes, that's that was me. I was the guy in the back.
Wow. I was there. Yeah, I'm a Delta, so I'm like, there's no reason I shouldn't know you.
That's wild.
But,
I was usually in the theater. I was usually in the theater then.
Well, see, I graduated in August of 2008.
Okay.
So,
Okay.
like right after you pledged, I was gone. But so you were in the theater acting program. What shows did you do? I might have seen you in a show.
So I did my first main stage was oh my gosh. I understudied. It was like this classical play they did.
Okay.
But
I feel like I've only seen two, and one was a musical, and I can't remember the name of the musical.
You know what? Because there was I didn't do the musicals. Like I said, I was in the BFA acting program.
Okay.
Singing is not a joy of mine. Like I don't like singing in front of people. It kind of it makes me a little whatever. But you know what? Okay, so one of the first shows I did was called The Birds. It was like a classical play. Me and Akeem actually we were in that together. And then I did Othello. I did Othello there, and I did my senior year. I was the lead for the last play, The Miser.
Wow!
So I did. Once they don't let you participate your freshman year. You kind of when you're in the BFA program, you just have to study, and then after that you're allowed to audition. And so after my sophomore year, I was in plays and stuff.
Yeah, y'all were like the athletes. No life outside of. And the film school was like that too. The only reason I had a little reprieve was because I was in the writing program, and being in the writing program, since we were dealing with other departments, we had more of a flexible schedule. But my first semester in film school, it was me, the bed, and film school. There was like nothing else. But once I transitioned to just doing the writing track, which doesn't happen until your second semester, then I actually would have, if I'm in theater, will I only have class at this time on this day, blah, 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 blah. Whereas in the film school, it's like, no, you're on set. So it's all day. It's 12-hour days. It's, so I totally get it.
Interesting. So was Rex, did you know Rex? Was that his name? Okay. Okay. Yeah. That's so crazy.
Cinematography?
No. I think so. When I was working with I did a few film, of the films in the film school, the shorts. And so I knew him kind of the most as like the point person, but yeah,
that's crazy. Okay. Back to your story. So, so you were in the BFA program for acting.
Yeah.
And then how did you get from there to, deciding that you wanted to do film and television? Did you go into theater acting after that? Tell us.
You know what was really interesting? Growing up in Atlanta, I didn't really have any access to like film or that I knew. Like nobody I knew was in the industry or an actor. Not at that, especially not at that time in Atlanta. Like I said, I didn't graduate from high school until 06, and there were some things filming at that time, but nothing was popping like that. So I left to study theater. All I knew about acting was that you could do it in a theater. That's what I was used to. So, and I had studied abroad at that time, so I had been to London and kind of been on the West End and seen like how theater can be really, something majestic and really amazing. So I it wasn't like I was like, not happy about it. But I remember one time in class, one of my friends who's actually out here now, a good friend of mine still, he just outright said it. He just said like, I want to do film acting. I don't necessarily want to do theater. I want to do film acting. And it was kind of like this hush fell over the room. Like, it was like, I can't believe, like, cause at that time,
like the respect level is different.
Yeah,
like
it was
theater's for serious acting.
Right. Theater's this thing to be coveted, and film is like if you want to like go crash out and go do something like. And so him just saying that put it into me of like that's what I really because that's what I saw growing up. I was a cinephile growing up. I watched a lot of film. I watched a lot of TV shows, and that I was kind of a latchkey kid. Like those things
we were being raised by the TV.
Yeah. And then I was like, I can do that. That could be me. So I was just following the path that I knew how to get. I knew I could do it through acting, and to do acting, you could do theater. And then my friend, he said that about film, and that really put that into my head. And then the Florida State Film School. I got my first reel just by doing all of the thesis films and the shorts, and
I'm glad you went over there.
Yeah. It taught me so much. Like to this day, I don't feel any type of like anxiety on set because I spent so much time not just learning my role as an actor. Like I know what the grips do. I know what the lighting people need. I know what sound needs. I know what the PA's doing. I know what the designer's doing. I know that I'm a cog in this whole thing. And as long as I'm playing my part right, like, and I'm not getting in the way, everything's going to go smoothly. So I really do credit the Florida State Film School for giving me kind of a foundation of just even my vocabulary on set of things,
And that's the thing I appreciate the most about the Florida State Film School, is that it makes you learn every single role in the credits.
Yep.
We were even doing Foley.
Yeah.
Right? Whereas there are a lot of other film schools that only focus on the above the line stuff. But at Florida State, you don't get to hire out.
Right.
We have to do our own stuff. Right?
Yeah.
Yeah. And we are given a budget so that we're on the same level of, playing field. You aren't able to go get your own money, get your own crew, hire out. Everything happens right there so that we are all equally accountable for each other's, films. But also that means when people graduate, they can start working.
Yeah.
Because they don't come out of the film school with the only skill being above the line stuff, which is not something you can just come to Hollywood and jump straight into.
Right,
you know what I'm saying?
Right. It's impossible.
So the fact that they can come here and crew and they can edit and they can do, all the other things that's what makes the film school so great to me.
Absolutely. Yeah. Yeah. So what project did you make there? What were your thesis films?
So as a writer, our thesis was a script, not a film.
Okay.
So I only made one film, and that was a 5-minute short my first semester. So the graduate film program is 2 years straight, no breaks. We don't get holidays off. We don't get summers off, nothing. Now, writers got a little bit more off because, again, we would be in other schools and they would be taking off, right? So we might luckily we did get a spring break one year, but we went to study abroad with British playwrights.
Okay, great,
so we were still in school, but we were in London. But anyway, I said that to say the first semester, writers and the production students are all in one cohort. And we all have to make, so there are 30 of us, we all have to make 1 5-minute short films that you have to write, direct, and edit.
Right.
Then you have to produce somebody else's film, DP somebody else's film, and all of the other, crew positions, somebody else's film. But then after that first semester, we break off. And the 6 writers go this way, and the 24 production students go that way. And so the 24 production students get to make 2 more films.
Okay.
When I was there, I think everybody made a second film, and I can't remember if everybody made a third film or if only 3 to 5 people got to make a third film. But for us, what we went to do, we did a full act play, 2 one-act plays that we put up.
Okay.
Which is a 10-minute play that we put up. We went down to Sarasota. What's it called? The Oslo.
That's right.
We went down to Sarasota and we put up something there. We did a lot in the theater program.
It's not a joke. It's not a joke.
We put up something there, and then in creative writing, we wrote like a short story. And then in the film school, we wrote a spec that we had to submit to a festival, and that's how I got my first placement. I was a finalist straight out of graduate school in the Warner Brothers TV workshop. We did 1 feature film, 1 spec, then we did our short, and I think that's all that we wrote. We might have written 1 more thing, but again, like I said, we would spend 1 semester over here, 1 semester over there, blah, blah, blah. So we basically got to do all of the writing. It was great.
I think that's why I believe in education so much when it comes to artistry sometimes, because you can have the spark as an artist. You can have that kind of like the creativity, but sometimes we need structure. We need someone to tell us like how to marry the business to the art. And I feel like that's really what school taught me, is like, you can be super talented, but if you are not willing to look into the business side of this thing, you're not going to be happy. You're not going to be happy artistically or fulfilled. And like you said, I'm sure you're doing this show and this interview. You're someone who seems very self-motivated, but I think most artists, like they wouldn't have thought to let me write this thing and then submit it and just see. Let me just see what happens.
Mostly because we, especially back then, because obviously we know this, but a lot of younger people don't realize our access to knowing it existed in the first place was very small. So even though you are correct, I'm a self-motivator, blah, 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 blah. But I didn't know fellowships existed when I was in film school.
Right.
So with my teacher, who I cannot remember his name, but he taught us how to write for TV.
Yeah.
Like he gave us the University of Television Writing, which starts with specs, right?
Okay.
And I spec'd Heroes, actually. And I just
finished
rewatching Heroes a couple of weeks ago. I watched the whole series again. But if it were not for him to tell us that fellowships existed in the first place, and then obviously make it a priority and make it a part of our grade that you have to submit. And I think 2 or 3 of us actually made it to the finalists. And back then, the workshop was so small that they even had an in-person thing for the finalists.
Oh,
so we all, well, first of all of us moved to LA except for maybe one person who went to New York. So 3 of us were in that room from the Warner Brothers workshop finalists, just from his teaching.
It's amazing.
Yeah.
It's amazing.
Absolutely. Okay, so you realize, all right, that you want to be doing film and TV.
Sure.
So what are the steps? How do you do that?
You know, I'm still trying to figure that out, Shannon, if I'm being honest with you. You know, like you said, I think just throughout my life as an artist, I've been fortunate enough to have some teachers who really have imparted onto me just some valuable knowledge from their own experiences. Like I remember I had a teacher, an acting teacher when I was really young. I mean, maybe like 14, 15, like, you know, they're dropping gems that I'm just not ready for. And he drew this pie graph on the board, and he drew like, you know, this is going to be your career, 85%, and then he split like the rest of it. So he was like, this small percentage is going to be your hard work. This small percentage is going to be like, you know, something else. And this 85% is luck. And I was like, you know, at that time, you know, I'm sitting there in class and my whole life's ahead of me. I'm like, what are you talking about, bro? Like, luck. Like, no, if I just work hard enough,
if I work
do
hard,
the right things, and
it's the merit. My merit.
Yeah. Right. And then life continues to happen, and you're like, oh, I'm like, you know, you start to see that, like, and his whole thing for drawing that pie graph was to say that if you're getting into this to be famous, if you're getting into this to be rich and think you're going to have these jet-setting lives, sure, maybe that might happen to you, but you need to love this. You need to love the theater, acting, film, the craft, whatever it is, because it is not going to sustain you, and it will test you. It will test you, and life has certainly done that, because not just the industry tests you, but then life tests you. And so it's like, do you love it enough to cling to it when life is also testing you? And so just throughout my life, I have proven to myself that acting is something that I do love in my core. It's part of who I am. Theater is part of who I am. I think all of us as human beings, we're people. We think in narratives. We think in stories from our ancestors. You know, that's how we warned people. That's how we, you know, told about where the watering hole was or whatnot. So I think narratives are one of the strongest powers we have as human beings in order to impart lessons and things onto each other. So every day I learn something new about myself, about human nature. And it's infinitely interesting to me. It really is.
Yeah, absolutely. So what age were you when you finally came out to Los Angeles?
Let's see, I graduated college, left Tallahassee. I must have been around 23 or 22. And then I got back to Atlanta. Like I said, I'm from Atlanta, and I kind of just stayed there and worked there for a few years. I did some theater. I worked at the Alliance Theater. I worked at the Aurora Theater. I did some commercial work. And like I said, TV and theater was kind of starting at that time in Atlanta, but they were shooting like maybe Teen Wolf and like maybe 2 other like really known shows that I went out for when I was there. But yeah, when I first got back to Atlanta, I secured an agent pretty quickly there, and like I went out for my first commercial audition, and I booked my first commercial audition.
Okay.
So I was like, oh, was like, oh, this is how. Oh, okay. So just once a month,
It is
I
my
book a
my
commercial.
meal.
There you go. Right. I was making a budget. I was like, okay, one commercial a month. I'll be okay. And then, you know, months go by and you're like, oh, okay, so it's not like that. Maybe that was a fluke. So you just learn these lessons as you continue to go through your career. And I just got hit with a bunch of things like that from, joining a project and not feeling like it was what I thought it was going to be, and then like still having to write it out, and learning how important relationships were. Like it's just been my career has really been a just a learning experience on the fly thing, I would say.
Yeah. So how long did it take you once you got to LA to book something that made you feel like, okay, this is gonna go somewhere? Because you've been in it this whole time, right? Was there ever a time where you got out and came back, or have you been basically consistently grinding?
As far as working,
yeah.
When I got to LA, I'd say probably the first 3 to 4 years were kind of like just kind of learning, just kind of figuring it out. Like I started out doing really the normal story. I was bussing tables in NoHo. I was, being a waiter. I was going to classes. I was, I worked in a warehouse. I was, working these 52 footers, hauling things up and down. Like and then going to auditions when I could. Like, I was really living that life. And, so I'd say about the first 3 to 4 years, I was just kind of getting my bearings, taking classes, kind of getting into the community. And then I finally secured like an agent or a manager. And then I remember one day I had him for like maybe a year or two. And then he called me up and he was like, yeah, man, my life's kind of going to shit. So I'm leaving the industry too. So you don't have a manager no more. So, okay, bro. Like that's just kind of how like life hits you.
It's tough for everybody. It's tough for everybody.
Everyone. Like I can't imagine as a writer, like I think about that, like you said, like if like thankfully you had the Warner Rock, but because that's obvious, there's just so much talent. That's what you learn in the world.
Yeah,
everybody's talented. Everybody can really bring it.
Everybody got a story.
Everybody's got a story. It's you just have to continue to believe in yourself and know that your story matters, and continue to be honest and truthful. So yeah, I was out here, to answer the original questions, I was out here for 3 or 4 years. And then I think one of the first things I booked that like wasn't a commercial or something, I did, Kevin Hart had this Black History series on Netflix. And I booked the role of Robert E. Johnson because I also play the guitar as well. So that was something that kind of separated me in that audition. I not only could I act and sing a little bit, but I played the guitar actually.
Well, you sang for them. You didn't want to sing for musical theater, but you said Kevin Hart was looking for me to give a little doo-wop pop. So
they put some dollar signs on it. So I was like, I'll give it a try.
Give it a little.
So I did that, and the guitar thing kind of set me apart, and I booked that role. And then, but that's the crazy thing too about Hollywood. I didn't even have to play the guitar. Didn't even have to play it on the day. Film, that's something that has surprised me about film and TV acting in comparison to theatrical acting, is that with theater, it's rehearsal. There's no improvisation. No. There's no,
you can't go like you can't if the line says, I say this, I think I've said this in every one of these lives when I tell people I was in musical theater. I got a note because I said THE instead of A. Like it's what's on the page, that's it.
You're doing Mammoth, you're doing, August Wilson. You can't be up here tap dancing, bro. Like, and it's the same with your staging. Things have to be in a certain place.
Yes.
And there's elements of that to film as well, but there's not a lot of prior rehearsal. Usually, you get your script, they send you to the set, you get in your little wagon if you have lucky enough to get one, and then you show up on set, and they might walk through a few things, kind of stage it a little bit, but then they're ready to film it. They're ready to shoot it. And are you ready? And
you're like, but hi, person who I'm about to do this scene with.
Right. And also, I'm the type of person where, like, I'm in my trailer, like, okay, this is exactly when the camera turns here, I'm going to be here, and then I'm going to deliver it like this. And then you get on set, and they're like, oh, the camera's 3 miles that way. We're not even going to really see you. So just kind of do this here. And it's like, oh, okay, cool. Got it. Like,
Yeah.
you just really have to.
Yeah. Huh? You have to be able to adapt.
Completely. You have to be able to adapt, stay in the moment, and just, yeah.
So then what was it like being able to audition for this role, or just being able to audition for the show? Because, you know, maybe you came in for this role, or maybe you just came in to go, hey, I'm a black man, y'all are hiring black people. Put me up for whatever black roles you got, and then this is the one that I have. What was that process like?
Well, this process, the role came via my agent. I got the role, and you know, you see these names attached: Larry Wilmore, Kerry Washington, and you're like, this would be nice. Like, you know, I would love to work with these people, and you know, because I was honestly fans of, like, Larry Wilmore. I've been known, you know, who he is and what he's done in this industry, and obviously Kerry Washington, and so my first round of auditions, and this is during the time after COVID as well, so a lot of things have changed in the industry. This was all via Zoom. My first audition was over Zoom, and like there were maybe 3 or 4 people there, but it wasn't this big thing. And then I got the call back, and I'm like, oh, okay, cool. You know, you get callbacks all the time. There wasn't really anything crazy about it. But then my agent was like, you know, Kerry Washington and Larry Wilmore will be on the call, and I'm like, okay. I only know one Kerry Washington, Larry Wilmore, so you must mean, you know, them. So that kind of, like, I don't want to say shook me, but it helped me to realize the gravity of this role that I was going out for in this project. Like I'd never really auditioned in front of people of this magnitude before. Yeah. And so did the role, did the callback, did the Zoom, you know, and like most things, I did it and just forgot about it. Just, you know,
you got to be that way. You got to keep it pushing.
Do it,
wasn't it?
Release it. And I remember I was coming back from playing golf. I was at the golf range, and they called me, and I got this call from my agent, and he was like, they want to give you the role of JT in Reasonable Doubt. And it was just one of those things of like, wow, sometimes you catch a break, man. Sometimes like the thing comes through and you're given an opportunity. And that's really what it felt like. I just had nothing but gratitude for these people for giving me a chance. And, you know, this unknown guy, you know, they saw something in my audition that they liked, and I'm just forever indebted to them. It's been an amazing experience.
Yes. So then let's get into it. Did you know you were going to be the bad guy?
Not to this extent, Shannon. Not to this extent. When
you're like, what did I sign up for?
I have a funny story about that, actually. Okay. So I get the role, and the sides that I get for the audition, the sides are, you know, as an actor, you get certain parts of the script to do for the audition. And I had a scene with McKinley, with his character in the script, where I was a little, you know, forceful, but it was still to him, and I wasn't like beating him up or really like threatening him. I was just kind of like, you know, talking a little, you know, spicy to him. And so that's all I knew about him. Yeah. I knew that he was a football player, and that you know, he had a little spice to him, a little funk to him. And so I was like, okay, I can do that. And so with this process of Reasonable Doubt, we would get the script the week before we would shoot the episode, basically. So, you know, I don't know what's happening with other people. If I'm not in that episode, I'm not getting that script. So I don't know what's happening in between. I'm just getting the scripts down there.
So crazy. No context whatsoever. Like, and then you get your scenes and you like, whoa. How do we get here?
Literally. I'm at the table. You're at the table read finding out things. You're like, and sex scene. Okay. Cool. Didn't know that. Just had a burger today. All right. Let me get right. And so that was kind of the process for me. I was learning every episode something new about this character. And like you said, I'm already like, as an actor, creating this whole backstory about him. And then you get there and you're like, oh, no, that's not him.
No, it's not him. Because so I'm gonna let you get back to this, but
no.
Have you ever created a backstory that made your character the bad guy, or do you always come from a place of wanting this character to be good? So was some of the surprise that like, oh, he's actually an actual narcissist, you know, or or was it just a surprise, just because it was a surprise? I'm just wondering, in actors, unless it's the bad guy, right? Would you ever create a backstory that sent them that way,
Well, I think the backstory is only as, as helpful as it can be to me, as if it's informing me and the scene properly. Like I said, I think as an actor, and I appreciate just the art of storytelling in general. So I understand how important a writer's job is. If we don't have this text, there is nothing for me to work with. So I have to kind of basically build everything off of what I already know is set in stone in this text. So that's where I start with things. And so I was seeing little kernels of things of him being kind of a bad person, but that there was nothing explicitly like he hits and then he beats, and like there was nothing like that. And so literally, like, I think my third episode in the first season, I'm talking to the director, Julie Dash, and it's the scene where we're leaving her high school reunion, and then I pull off on her in the car. And so I'm talking to Julie, and I'm like, so, okay, they're having a bad time in their relationship, but there's no like domestic. But she's like, no, he's whooping her ass. And I was like, oh, okay. Like, let me, like, I truly, I was not building him in that direction. I was not feeling that way about him, but also learning that I didn't want that to have to inform some big performance change in me.
Absolutely.
Because as we see in, like,
he doesn't see himself as the bad guy. Period.
What bad guy does?
Right.
What bad guy does?
I mean,
there are some big
validated in all the things that he's doing.
There's some big moguls in the news right now who I'm sure still don't see themselves as like, what did I do? I helped so many people. Like, no, bro. You have to look at your actions, but as human beings, we don't really. I think it's hard for us to hold that ledger to ourselves and be like, okay, I really did so and so. So just learning that information just helped me to inform more things to build upon him. And again, as an actor, I think it is my job to just make what the writer has written come alive. And to, like, I'm not trying to add too much. I'm not trying to like change something that they've already gotten. I'm just trying to enhance what's already there. So that's really all I did. And each scene that I got, I tried to have a conversation with, and having a scene partner like Shannan, who is just, I think she has been so phenomenal this entire season. She has been killing this role. It's such hard material, and she's doing it with such minutia, and it's just been beautiful work. So having her as a scene partner as well for these really deep, emotional, and triggering scenes was really a blessing.
So you probably didn't have this information before the character died. And I know there have been maybe a couple of flashbacks since then. So maybe you were able to use this to inform the character, but we don't learn it until so many episodes later. And to your point, you don't get the scripts that you're not, a part of. How did knowing that his mother abused him shape how you presented the character? Or did you not have that information?
I didn't have it. No clue about that. I had no clue about that. But again, as an actor, I don't feel that I necessarily have to have lived through something in order to bring a truth to it. I think if you've been in any type of argument, whether it's with your mother, that was like an argument at a 2, or with a lover that was an argument at an 8, like, I think you're able to put yourself in a position to be like, okay, how would I respond if things went this way? How would I respond if things went this way, or a different way? And from there, I have to map out, okay, this is what Chris would do. Is this what this character would do? And from there, I start to build off what is me and just adding on to the things that aren't me for the character to make that person more fleshed out. And anytime I think you run into a character who is like this, who is abusive, or, just generally a not nice person, just like in real life, there is something there. It's either a defense mechanism, or there is some trauma underneath that has not been dealt with, or that they are just clinging on to because it has become part of their identity, or, so I came up with those things for him, but I didn't know specifically for the character that he was being abused by his mother. Until I was watching the episode, like every time I watch the episodes, I'm like, wow, this guy, he had a lot going on. Like I really didn't know most of the stuff.
Yeah. Do you think it takes emotional maturity to be an actor?
Ooh, okay. I think the greatest actors do have emotional maturity, but I think if you have the proper director and you have cast the right person, I think that director can still get a life-changing performance out of that actor if it's for the right role. But I think if you want someone who can do that for multiple roles, you want someone who has emotional maturity.
Yeah, because what brought that to me was the fact that you already understood people enough to read the character and know that something had happened to him in order for him to become who he is, right? Absolutely. And as we just talked about, most bad guys don't see themselves as bad guys. So if we just talk about people in general are usually not emotionally mature enough, even in dealing with other people, to know this person is presenting their trauma to me.
Yeah.
I may or may not have done anything, you know, to trigger them.
Yeah.
But because they are yelling, because they are belittling, because they are cursing, because they are beating, something got them to this place. Absolutely. And so just even being able to understand that when you're reading characters and learning them takes a level of emotional maturity.
I think I definitely aspire to that, not just for my craft, but I think just as a human being, it makes life a bit more manageable when you're not emotionally reacting to everything. I feel like I've dealt with enough serious things in my life that I've been able to reflect and see my part in things and see how I wished I would have done things differently. And I'm a big person on reflecting. I reflect a lot on my actions, on other people's actions, on objectively like just what happened in the situation, because you know there's three sides to the truth.
Absolutely.
Yours, theirs, and what actually happened. And just because I do, or I'm trying to understand things, just because I might understand like, okay, you know what, Chris, this happened in your past as a child, and so you have this reaction to things. When it happens, I still have the reaction. Just because I'm aware of it is not stopping like that. The first part is just becoming aware of yourself as a human being. And then from there, you can hopefully start to build and craft yourself into a fully functioning adult in society that is not, you know, projecting your traumas onto other people.
Absolutely. So now that you are playing this bad guy, we already had another bad guy on the show because she is ruining Jax and Lewis's relationship.
Yeah, I saw her interview as well. Yeah, great. It was great.
We already asked her this question, so we're going to ask you. Do the people understand that you're not JT, or like what's happening in the real world?
Not at all. Not at all. And it's scary. It's very scary. I truly like, sometimes you see people and you see them like staring at you, or like even my friends, like close friends, they'll like hit me up and be like, how dare you? How could you? Why? How could you? Like, I'm like, but I also get it because as a fan of things, there are actors that I watch that I'm like, there's something about you. I don't know if you're acting too well or if this is really, and so I still get caught up in it. But when you do run into it, it's like, that's not me. That's not me.
Yeah, it's not. Yeah, I didn't do it. Do you remember Low Down Dirty Shame?
Sure. Yeah.
It's one of my favorite movies. I'm not a person of favorites, but it's one of my favorite movies.
Okay.
Do you remember when Jada Pinkett's character sees her soap opera like person, and she literally attacks him and fights him because of what he's doing on the soap opera?
Yeah. That's my mother. To this day, she'll be like, she used to say things like, something's not right with Tommy Lee Jones. You don't act like that for he's too good at acting like that. I'm like, Mom, these are
he's just acting. She's like, no,
yeah. So I was very aware of it, but to actually be on the receiving end of it has been it's been very interesting. Yeah.
What has Twitter been like for JT?
You know what? It hasn't been bad because I'm not super active on Twitter. I kind of lurk and watch and look at things if like there's like an episode drops or something.
Yeah.
But it is interesting seeing what people just have to say about your. I try to distance it. It's like they're talking about the character.
The character, not me.
Not my face. That's not my face that they're talking about. Like yeah. So it's been interesting. It's been interesting. I'm very happy that there's such a fandom around the show that people really are connecting with it, and like it's the first thing where like friends and family are watching it, and I didn't have to tell them to. Like usually it's like, guys, please, I have a guest star tonight in this thing. Like
mostly you're like, just watch, please.
Right. I'm still acting, guys. Yes, I'm still doing the acting thing.
You still doing that little acting thing?
Yeah. Yes, Grandma. It's going all right. It's going okay. But yeah, so I've been very happy that people have been enjoying it, and you know, as long as they don't go too crazy, I don't have no issues with it. Yeah.
All right. So last week we saw episode 8.
Mm-hmm.
What were your thoughts? Because again, you didn't know what was coming up.
So much is happening.
You didn't know what was going to be happening with them. I mean, my very first thought, and I even made a TikTok about it, was Jax is a better woman than me.
Yo. I mean, her and Lou, like both of them have made some choices where I'm like, is that what I should do in this situation? Because I would never do that. I would have been gone.
And this is why, you know, we're all out here, oh, we want to be married, blah, 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 blah. Do we?
Do you? Oh.
Like, is this the stuff where it's like, yeah, fight through a whole nother human being with stuff. My husband's face and last name, and I have to tell my children about it? What?
And then sit down at dinner and laugh and smile.
Smile. What? Bruh. So everybody loved the monologue that I believe Ryan wrote. They loved the monologue. And I was like, see, I'm the kind of screenwriter that would have let him do that whole monologue, and she would have been like, get out. Goodbye.
Because that's what really would have, that's nice for you.
I'm so excited that you love me so much. Goodbye. Because it's like, again, and I think we talked about this last week a little bit, like, it's not about the sex. They were on a break. This is not friends. There's no misunderstanding about whether it was a break or not. They were on a break. They were both sleeping with other people. That's not the issue. But just because he made this mistake, a big one, because he didn't even put a condom on. Okay. So that was news to me, because I was thinking like, oh, okay, maybe the condom broke or something. So you mean to tell me you didn't even put one on? Wild, right? So this choice you made, right? But even with that, it doesn't stop the love. You know what I mean? It doesn't stop everything that they've built thus far. And so because they have children together, he's not going anywhere.
Yeah.
So would you rather be on the opposite side of him while dealing with this? Your children are still going to have to deal with the child because that's their sibling.
Okay.
You're still going to have to deal with the child because that's their sibling. And you're still going to have to deal with him because you have children together. So what's the difference from being the wife or the ex? You're still in each other's orbit. So if I still love you, then why not just be together?
You know, like you said, I don't have kids, so I don't know that attachment or like, you know, that commitment that I guess you would have with somebody. But I had a therapist one time explain something to me about relationships when I was trying to, like, you know, save a certain relationship. And she was telling me that sometimes a distance grows between people like an ocean, and sometimes it becomes too far to cross. And I think there's some points in a relationship where you have to be like, yo, there's an ocean here. There is a ocean, and then a planet, and another ocean, and this is just not. And like you said, so you have to. I think you have to choose yourself at a certain point. Once you see, like, there has to be an end to. In my mind, you have to have a threshold of like, this is what I will take. This is the type of treatment that I will allow someone to give to me. And I think once that's been crossed, you have to for yourself uphold those threats, because if not,
baby, it's not the threshold. What is?
What is?
What
When
is
is it? When will it be too much?
it?
You ate my leftovers. That's the camel straw. Like where is it
What
going
is
to end? So I think for dramatically, theatrically, as a dramatic story, it's great
absolutely
TV.
great
If my friend is telling me this, I'm like, bro, you should have left a few stories ago. You were
Right,
telling me like this is crazy.
right,
Yeah,
right. Okay, and everyone is now speculating on who killed JT.
sure.
I mean, do you want to wait, place your bet or?
Well, I mean, I was facing the other direction, so I don't know who hit me in the back of the head. I don't know. I
I
can't tell
have
you.
my theory, and I don't know if I want to be right.
What's your theory?
My
I'd like
theory
to
is
hear it.
that it was one of the children,
Ooh, okay.
because that would be the only reason why the mom would take
Okay.
the fall, right? Because
Mm,
otherwise, who else is so important that I, as the woman, the mom, the person who was the victim,
mm,
etc.,
mm,
that I need to protect them enough to
mm.
then be away from my children, right? Like,
Yeah.
who
Yeah.
else is that important?
I mean,
We don't know
I,
the parents or anything. You know what I'm
true,
saying?
but people have done. I've seen some really interesting theories out there. I've seen like people were telling me. I really like the Sally theory. If I'm just watching it, I'm
Yeah,
thinking it's Sally
yeah.
because she put her house. That to me,
That was crazy.
if I'm the husband in that situation, that's one of the most
That's
egregious
threshold.
things.
That's threshold.
That's like a we gotta go talk right now. We gotta go talk to therapist right now. You just
Yeah.
did something crazy. So, and they're saying so like if she put the house up,
Mm-hmm.
maybe she.
See, the only reason I don't think she did it is because, one, then that means when she got on the stand, she basically pointed the gun at herself. You know what I'm saying? Like, she got
Mm,
on there and she was angry and she was this and she was that. Then it's like it's too easy now,
okay,
right?
okay,
And then at the end of the episode, they're on the phone together, right? So it's
right,
like it's too easy for it to be her.
yeah,
But Sally was the person who helped her put it together, who took in one of the children. You know what I
mm,
mean? So I'm like, yeah, you protected the child. Sally protected the
mm,
child.
I
Mom
like it.
protected the child. But it's like, I don't know if I want that to be the answer. Only because that was the second place I went. The first
Sure,
place we went was, well, she did it,
sure,
right? But she
yeah,
did it in self-defense. But this is storytelling. It can't be that simple. It can't
right,
be that cut and dry.
right,
So from the beginning, I've been asking myself, okay, well, who else could it be,
right.
right? Could it have been the boyfriend? But again, if it was the boyfriend, why am I going to jail? Like, I'm not. If you did it, I'm
I
not.
mean,
I'm not throwing myself under the bus.
there's love, there's true love,
It
Shannon.
sure is. But again, she's the one who has children.
Okay,
So
okay.
if he did it, he should take the fall if he did it. Now, she did it. So, I mean, if she did it, then okay. But if he did it, why am I taking the fall for you and not being
Who?
around my kids?
Okay, so as a screenwriter, who to you would be like a great choice? Is like they wouldn't have seen this coming, and it still makes proper sense.
Yeah.
It's so difficult, isn't it? And that's
So
why I love
it's
detective
either,
stories. I love like
yeah, it's
things like
either
this.
the daughter or the character. Is the character's name Tiffany? The one who's having Lewis's baby? What's the
Uh oh, her name is
Lee?
I think I think so. Yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
Tristan's character.
Because
Yeah.
she was having an affair with the man too. You know,
Oh,
she
you
might
know
have come to the
what?
house, saw what was up, and was like, "Yeah, we taking this man down." He might have been bad to her
Tony.
too.
Tony,
Tony,
that's
yeah,
right.
Tony.
That's
So,
good.
because other than that, nobody else is set up for it to be right. So
Sure.
it could either be she did it, the boyfriend did it, Sally did it, maybe Tony, because she would be the only other person with motive
Mm,
or access or anything like that, and
yeah.
then probably the oldest child. It probably wasn't the youngest child, but probably the
Right,
oldest
right.
child, because also the oldest child is not his. So the oldest child
Sure.
sees you messing with my mama,
Hmm.
and
No,
I
no,
came
no.
in here.
The oldest daughter is my real daughter
Really?
because
Oh, your daughter, but not
that's not
hers.
her daughter.
Yeah, 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 yeah.
That's the
Right.
issue. Yeah, yeah. Because
Yeah.
that's
So then that makes it even more like she chose her over him.
That'd be crazy. That'd be crazy.
Because, you know, well, women connect though.
Sure. But as a child, that's so traumatic. A child.
Right. Which is, again, why you don't want it to be the kid. So I don't know if you saw, is it Proven? It was on Apple TV with Jake Gyllenhaal. Presumed.
Oh, yeah. I did.
And you saw how it ended, right? So I'm not going to get spoilers for everybody.
Right.
But it's like, yeah, sometimes they get invested.
That was and that's, you know, a lot of that is, that's just good storytelling too. It's because you have to really, I don't think any audience wants to be completely sidetracked. Like, it's this guy who you never saw. Or
you never saw.
Right. You want it to be someone you're attached to, someone that you've been watching. And I feel like that's what a good whodunit, and I love a good whodunit. Oh my God, I love documentaries, like a good murder mystery. That's right up my alley. So any story that I'm really every week, like, it was them. No, it was them.
No, it wasn't.
They want me to think it's them. But so
that's how I feel about Sally. You want me to think it's her.
Mm-hmm.
But I don't think so. I think just like in Presumed Innocent, it's someone who's there, but we're not looking at them.
Yeah.
But it's still plausible for them to have done it, right? Exactly. And so all of the breadcrumbs are there for it to be Sally.
Sure.
But now that we're looking at her and we still have 2 more episodes to go, I'm like,
yeah,
maybe not.
It's interesting. I don't know.
Definitely. Okay, so people are already putting their questions in the queue for you. If you have questions for Chris, drop them down there. We're going to do a couple of these questions, then we're going to let him go for his Sunday night. Oh, what happened to Lewis's hand? I forgot.
You know what? I literally made that comment. I made that comment the other night watching the show. I was like, Lewis's hand has been bandaged for 2 seasons. What is going on?
I forgot what happened to it. But I feel like we saw it. Because that's the reason that she knew it was him in that video. Because she saw
she saw the back of his head. Ooh, got caught by the back of your head. And then she called him outside the hospital. Lewis has just been taking L's left and right recently.
And that's how you know, and this is not to absolve him, but that's how you know he's not made for this. Because Lewis,
he does feel out of his depth.
Evidence everywhere, okay?
Yeah, he feels a little out of his depth. Even like
exactly. This is not what you do, bro. You're trying to do what JT does.
He's trying to keep up with Jax. Like, when I saw the episode recently where he was like, they were showing their backstory, and he was like, "Let's go to the sex club." I'm like, bro, this is where you messed up right here, bro. You introduced this whole thing into your relationship, and
now you wonder why she was having sex with the ex-con.
Right. You don't. You got her used to this now. This is what she wants.
Got her into this.
Good Lord.
Okay, let's see.
He said he punched someone, right? That's what I was thinking. I think Lewis punched someone.
Okay, would a character breakdown with a detailed backstory help you shape your character? This is from JD.
Great question. I think it definitely helps as a springboard. I think acting is such a collaboration with so many different people, the writer, the director, myself, my imagination. When I get a breakdown or a detailed breakdown about a character, I definitely try to incorporate that into myself. But once I get there that day on the stage, whatever I have found that has connected with me is what I'm going to use. And hopefully they like those choices. And if not, I think more collaboration happens. But for me, a backstory is really just a springboard. I think about it like golf almost. Like, you have all these mechanics and things that you're trying to do, and then you just want it to connect into one beautiful swing. So I try to do all the things, where did he come from? How does he walk? What does he like to eat? What is he like when his heart gets broken? And then you come up with all these things, and then you just kind of forget it. And then you get there and you just be that person. You just, the same way you are when you wake up. You don't wake up and go, okay, my name is Chris and I like this and I don't like this and I talk. You just are who you are. And so you try to get to that level with the character usually.
Yeah. And for writers, I won't say it's true for all writers, we're taught to create backstories, you know what I mean? We're taught to figure out why this person is behaving the way that they are. And the only way that you know that is if you have done the work to know their backstory, to know where they come from and what they've been through. And so several of us might have pages and pages and pages on,
Really?
like stuff that this character has gone through that makes them this. If they have a trauma, we need to know what that trauma is, right? Because depending upon what my trauma is, I'm going to show up differently in life, right?
Sure.
If my trauma is sexual trauma versus domestic violence versus having been in a car accident versus getting picked on in school, those are different traumas that then present and project differently. So knowing the perfect character for each role is knowing what they've been through and how they're going to show up now. You know what I mean? And then how that affects the other person who has their trauma too. Because if you want conflict, then you take people with traumas that trigger each other and you just put them in the same room. And then
that's what I was going to ask. So what's your process when it comes to dialogue? Do you have those two like opposing thoughts in your head? Like, okay, this person's representing this kind of trauma. This person's representing this kind of trauma. And you're trying to write it from there? Or are you just creating like an interesting scene with these kind of two essences? And
so
like, how does that work?
I wouldn't say that it's about dialogue as much as it's about what they're trying to accomplish.
Okay.
Right.
Okay.
So if the goal is for JT to have power and control because he grew up in a home where he did not have any.
Oh, okay.
He's going to make decisions based on that.
Right.
So when Chanel challenges him, he's going to respond in the way that he's going to respond, right? And if the goal of the scene is to get him to a particular place so that we can see what that reaction looks like, so that we have evidence that Chanel actually gets beaten by him, then that's what I'm looking to establish in the scene. Somebody's always going to win and someone's always going to lose, but both of them are trying to win, right? He is trying to get that power and Chanel is trying to not get hit or not upset him, or assert her power, but also not upset him. You know what I mean? So you have these conflicting things that are happening, or it's a scene where the point is that that one person helps the other person to get there. So now it's not about conflict, but it's about mentorship, right? like you came in unsure. The job of the other character is to make you sure before you get out of this scene. So it's really just about figuring out what's the goal of the scene, which is to get you closer to the overall goal of the episode. And because you guys have an ensemble show, everybody's playing their own little role to get across whatever that ultimate goal is for the episode. You know what I'm saying?
Absolutely. And that's what I think it's so important as actors. And like you said, I think it's important for writers to know, how actors think as well. But as an actor, and I've taught acting throughout my life. I was a guest teacher at Emory, and I've taught acting a few times, and I always teach like a plot guide. Like I tell people about. I was like, as an actor, you need to understand there's rising action. Where you're at in the rising action, are you at the climax, or are you at the denouement? Like, where are you at in this story, so that you know what level you need to be at. I think those things are so important. And so I'm always so interested to hear how a writer constructs the bones of what they're writing. So you're saying you find the heading of the scene first, and then you have the characters in it, and then you kind of build them from what their backstory is, depending on what the scene needs and what they need.
Or what the whole story needs versus just the scene, right? Because the scene is a part of the whole.
Sure.
The theme is only there because each small part is going to get me to the whole. So to know the best character for this story is to know who's going to grow the most or regress the most, depending upon what the story is. You know what I'm saying? So putting someone like me in a story with a man who needs control like that, you don't have a story. Because I'm out.
Right. And
because I don't have traumas like that in my life that have put me in a place to believe that I could be stuck anywhere, that anybody else has control over me, that anyone can talk to me any kind of way, that they get a second chance to get it right, that they get to hit me. Well, like, you don't get that.
Right.
You know what I'm saying?
Right.
So to put a character to put Jax in a relationship with JT takes your story nowhere.
Yeah.
You don't have
Yeah.
anywhere to go. You know what I mean? So you have to choose the best characters for the story so that you can have the conflict and the drama and the everything else. Because if not, then you're just gonna have two hot-headed people. Jack's like, well, cool, put your boxing gloves on. That's what you want to do.
Right.
You know what I mean?
Right.
Like,
and now everybody did. Right.
You know what I'm saying? And now the story isn't going where you want it to go. You know what I'm saying? So you really have to choose the best characters for the story. And the only way you can do that is if you have done the backstory on those characters to know if you have a woman who comes from a single parent home and she grew up idolizing the Cosby Show, she wants a husband so bad. She might let a husband do a little bit of anything before she leaves because she needs it so bad.
The goal is the husband, right? Not what a husband really should be.
Not what they bring, not what they do. She watched the Cosby Show and just thought having a husband gives you that. Not having a particular kind of husband who understands this and knows that and blah, blah, blah.
Yeah.
So putting her, someone who's desperate for love, in a situation is different from someone who has more of a secure attachment about themselves and about their partners and who asks questions and, blah, 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 blah. And if you don't take that in consideration, then now that's when you start forcing your characters one way or the other. Instead of, it's the same thing reality television, right? Reality television is the producers have to find the right personalities to put in the room. So everybody looks at it and they look at it like, oh, it's scripted. They told them to say this and that and blah, 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 blah. Not to say that there are no scripts whatsoever. It happens. If the camera's not on their face and you hear them saying something, that's ADR. It got put in later, right? But generally speaking, the producers are not standing on the side going, fight. What they did was they put the right people in the room together and watch the magic happen. So that's casting. You know what I'm saying? Yeah. When you're casting real people, so the same thing is true when you're casting your characters.
Wow.
You got real people. And let them go to work. You don't have to force them one way or the other.
So interesting. That's so interesting. That reminds me, I had an acting class I took out here. And I think, honestly, every human being should take an acting class because it's part of just learning yourself as a human being. Because we think of other people as characters. You yourself you have weird things and you have tics and you have things that people look at you and go, look at that character over there. And just in the vein of talking about having that conflict or having characters to have that conflict, I was doing this scene where I was improvising with this person, and I just kept cutting out on the scene because it would get to a point and I would just be like, I'm not dealing with this, and then leave. And my teacher would be like, Chris, what are you doing? And I'm like, I would never deal with this. What are you talking about? And she was like, sure, you might never, but in theater and drama and in heightened acting, that's what we want to see.
Yeah.
We want to see these people who are upset with each other and frustrated with each other. And it really taught me something about myself that I'm an avoider when it comes to a lot of things. And I used to think I was just very peaceful.
Yeah.
But I realized that I was avoiding things in my life because I just didn't want to have to deal with them. And usually it worked for me a lot of my things would just work out or they would just go away and I'd be like, oh, I guess I didn't have to do anything.
Yeah.
But that moment in that class showed me and taught me that I'm making these choices to not take action in my life. I'm making these choices to not fight for these things.
Yeah.
And whatever the outcome is, I have to be okay with that because I'm not fighting for it.
Not being active.
Not being active. And that doesn't mean that you should move on everything, but it was just one of those moments where I was like, I need to speak up more. I need to be more uncomfortable in these situations and let it rock out a little more. That's not to say to yell or to have a unhealthy discourse, but to at least be able to,
conflict resolution, problem solving. You know, that's something that most people are not learning from home. Mm-hmm. They're watching their parents do it well or do it terribly.
Yes.
Or, to your point of being avoidant, they're watching their parents not do it at all. Mm-hmm. And then they get out into the world and they end up in conflict because there's no way you're going to go through life without having conflict.
Right.
And most people do not know how to resolve it. So they think staying in it does mean fighting. And
right.
And trying to win and hurting and whatever to get the person to shut up instead
that
of
means you're trying. That means you're trying.
Instead of going, well, what's the actual problem? So all of it goes back to writing goes back to life. What's the problem we're trying to solve? And what are the steps that are going to get us there? And what are the things that are going to complicate it? If I call him out of his name right now, complication. Right. Now, we're not going to focus on the problem anymore. We're going to focus on the fact that I called him out of his name. So if I actually want to solve the problem, I should probably not call him out of his name.
You talking that talk, and a lot of people, including myself, we don't want to hear that, because that's the real adult thing to do.
Yeah.
That's the real. Do I actually want to solve this problem, or do I want to have a fight?
Yeah. Like, do I just want to win? Because something in me says, because you're calling out a problem, that makes me bad. That makes me not enough. Yeah. So now I got to make you feel something negative because I'm feeling something negative, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
And at the end of it, nothing's solved. No problems are solved. Absolutely none.
Just more scratches, more of that depth has been, that ocean has grown.
And more trauma.
More trauma.
Because now, let's say that, relationship, partnership, co-worker, whatever, that passes, you get to the next person, you still haven't learned how to resolve conflict.
At all.
So you're thinking it's going to be different because that person's different, but you're not different.
And how you handle one thing is how you handle most things. I think, like, if you're someone who is really, you think you're really calm in life, but then when you're driving, you burst out and you start that's in there somewhere. Yeah,
it's in there.
You need to figure out what that is so that it doesn't randomly happen in a grocery store someday when you weren't expecting it, and then you're going off on this unsuspecting person for no reason. Yeah. Like, so many people, we walk around with these traumas and these things, and we hold on. I think we as a society too just shame emotions sometimes, especially as men, as Black men, or even women. Like, it's amazing to me sometimes how many women I meet who don't want to be seen crying. Yeah. And I'm like, who is teaching these people that it is weak to show emotion, that it is weak to cry or to say you need help? Or
I think people look at the tear ducts like they look at the appendix.
Okay. In what way?
Like, you don't need them. Like, they're not there for a reason.
Wow.
Right? Like, you often hear people say, oh, the appendix, you can live without it. Like, you don't even really need it. But people, like, we have tear ducts, which means we're supposed to cry. Like, we all have them, not just women. Men have them, little boys. We all have tear ducts. They are there for a reason. We cry for a reason. But society has told us that all emotions are wrong except for anger. We're allowed to be angry. Men are allowed to be angry. Men are not allowed to feel anything else. Anything else is you're being too feminine and you shouldn't be expressing these emotions. But if you're expressing anger, that's masculine, so we'll take it. That's fine. Yeah. On the women's side, it's the opposite. If we express any kind of anger or frustration, that's negative. Right? That's nagging. Sometimes it's considered masculine, et cetera, et cetera. We're supposed to be these peaceful, nurturing, have no problem with anything people all day. And again, as human beings, how fair is it to expect someone's emotions to not, fluctuate?
Yeah.
Because humans do that. Like,
completely.
Like, that's what humans do.
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay, and look, we are off task.
Deep stuff. Good stuff. Good stuff.
Deep stuff. All right, we have a couple of more questions and then we'll be out. I think we kind of talked about the villain thing already, Cheryl, so we'll go to one of the other questions. How much difference is there when you get surprised by the script and how you reflect beforehand? I think we kind of talked about that too, right? Like, you getting the script and what you kind of prepared for, and then getting the script and realizing that something different could be there. All right, so we'll skip that one because we kind of talked about that too. Here's another one. How do you stay level-headed for the roles that you receive in the industry? How do you stay level-headed for the roles in the industry?
Well, I mean, that's pretty easy. I mean, this industry, if it doesn't humble you, you just must have an ego out of this world. I have been humbled more times than I care to mention or to tell you. So level-headedness is not even like everything that I receive at this point in my life, I receive it with gratitude because I truly understand that nothing is owed to me. Nobody owes me anything. Nobody is my daddy and my mama. They have no reason or need to help me out. It's not going to help them. So anytime that even this, I thank you. The fact that you wanted to sit down and interview, I'm like, someone wants to talk to me about what? Like, what is it like? But all of these things, I receive them with gratitude because I know what it's like to not get what I want. I know what it's like to be humbled. I know what it's like to watch someone else live your dreams and just go like, okay, what do you take from this? What can you learn from this? Go back to the drawing board and just start over again with gratitude because being bitter, being egotistical gets you nothing in life, and it doesn't make the ride any better.
No, and it makes it suck for everybody else who's on the ride too. You're at the front of the ride, know good and well you ate something you didn't have any business eating, and now and now we're on this roller coaster, and your vomit is hitting everybody behind you. Like,
exactly.
You're making this terrible for all of us.
Exactly.
You know what I mean?
Exactly.
And what a lot of people have said about Reasonable Doubt, about Romola, is it's one of the safest sets they've ever felt like they were on. That you're dealing with good people every day, and we know that's hard to find in this industry.
As I was just saying, and I just saw her writing in here, Shannan. Again, I was working with artists who I truly look up to. I'm telling you, every time I was on set with Shannan, I was learning something. Every time I was on set and Romola was there, or Anton Cropper, the director, or Julie, like these people, Morris Chestnut, Emma Yacht, like these people are professionals.
Yeah.
And they have been doing this for years, and they have been doing it at a high level. And to be on that set and to still feel so welcome, to still feel this warm, generous energy, like Ramla is I don't think there's a better showrunner in Hollywood, to be honest with you. Someone who gets the business done, but is still just a down to earth human being, dog. Like you could just still chill next to her and have a conversation about music, food, whatever. But she's also this showrunner for this huge thing. And it's like, oh, like how do you have this dichotomy of like staying down to earth, but also doing these amazing things? So I truly trump it up to these people just being amazing human beings, like folks who have truly taken it upon themselves to dedicate themselves not only to this industry, but to making people feel seen in this industry who often don't. Marginalized people, just people whose stories often don't get a lot of shine, and they do it with good music and interesting stories. And so yes, this entire process for me has just been amazing, from even the hair and makeup people being people of color, which is not something
not always.
That's a whole nother conversation. I've had so many just instances in this industry where I'm on like big projects and they have people who look at my hair like they've never seen it before, and they're like,
and then you're like, and I'm supposed to let you touch it?
Right. They're just spraying water on me with the water. I'm like, bro, okay.
They get in the clippers, you're like, whoa.
Right. We got a problem there. So just having people that understand my plight as an actor in this industry and gives you that safe space. I can for sure say that Onyx as a production company, Simpson Street as a production company, Kerry Washington, Larry Wilmore, Ramla, Pete Chapman, all of these producers, they took it upon themselves to make this as positive and as warm of a environment as they possibly could. And I thank them for it. I really appreciate them for it.
That is so great. All right. Well, we are at the end of our time. Is there anything that you want to offer? Any gem you want to drop, whether it's about acting, breaking into the industry, anything that you want to leave the people with?
Oh, yeah, if we're talking about that, I just say, listen, just know you're not alone. We're all in this trek together. We're all trying to make it together, and you will have your day. You will have your days. You will have your off days as well. But there will come some days where you're just going to be like, I can't believe that I get to do this. And it's all a testament to willpower. Just stay in it, stay truthful to yourself, and continue to love it. And the day you don't love it, be honest about that too.
This is long game, people. Y'all hear me say that all the time. It's long game. There is no safe space. You can make it to the top and fall and have to work your way right back up. This is a grind. You got to be in it. And the moment that you decide you don't love it, hey, you could be doing something different. This is too hard of an industry to be in if you don't love it.
Take a break, for sure.
Take a break.
Shannan, I want to thank you so much for having me. This was awesome. It was a pleasure to chat with you, fellow Noel. Even though we sucking at the football. I wouldn't watch some football right now, but you know.
Well, thank you for being here, and for everybody. Reasonable Doubt drops at midnight Thursday morning, Wednesday night, every week on Hulu. We're moving into episode 9. There are only 2 episodes left. Okay, if you haven't caught up, go on back to Hulu, catch up, so that you can be ready for these last 2 episodes. And I always have to do my spiel. For those people who don't know, I'm Shannan E. Johnson, CEO of The Professional Pen, where we develop screenwriters from idea to pitch. Need help on your screenplay? Go to www.professionalpen.com, theprofessionalpen.com. All right, guys. Thank you all for being here. Happy writing.
Bye.
Bye.